So that dreaded light pops up on your dash, you run a scan, and you're staring at a B2609 error code on your Nissan. It can definitely be confusing, but don't worry, in this guide, we're going to break down exactly what this code means, walk you through a step-by-step diagnostic process, and help you figure out how to get it fixed.
You've plugged in your scanner, and there it is, B2609. It might just look like a random string of numbers and letters, but it's actually pointing to a very specific system in your car. So, let's get to the bottom of it.
At its heart, the B2609 code is telling you one thing. There's a malfunction with the electronic steering column lock. This is a really critical part of your car's security and ignition system. Basically, your car has detected a problem with the gizmo that locks and unlocks your steering wheel.
And what's really crazy is how fast your car picks up on this. Your car's body control module, the BCM, can trigger this error code after detecting a fault for just 1 second. That's it. It really tells you how vital this system is for your vehicle to operate correctly.
Okay, to tackle this the right way, we need a clear game plan. First, we'll get a solid understanding of the code itself. Then, and this is super important, we'll move through a logical diagnostic process, starting with checking for any other codes, then inspecting wiring, and finally diagnosing the parts themselves. And we'll wrap it all up with a final troubleshooting roadmap.
All right, let's start with the basics. What's actually going on under the hood when this code pops up?
I want you to think of the body control module, or BCM, as your car's central nervous system. It manages a ton of electronic functions, and in this case, the BCM is the one sounding the alarm. It's gotten a signal from the electronic steering column lock that something is off.
As you can see, there are a few potential culprits here. The problem could be something as simple as a bad wire, or it could be a more specific issue with a circuit. In some cases, the problem might be the steering lock itself, or another key part called the IPDM-E/R, which is the Intelligent Power Distribution Module. We're going to break down how to check each one of these.
Now, before you even think about grabbing a wrench or a multimeter, there is a critical first step. You absolutely have to do this first.
Okay, this right here is a massive pro tip. If you see the codes U1000 or U1010 hanging out with B2609, you have to stop. Those U codes point to a communication error in your car's network. You must tackle them first. Why? Because fixing that communication problem can often make the B2609 code vanish completely. So always start here.
All right, so let's say you don't have any of those U codes. Now we can move on to the physical inspection. And we always start with the simplest, most common culprits, the wires and connectors.
Your first hands-on task is a pretty simple 3-step process. First, just use your eyes. Look closely at the wiring harness for any signs of fraying, cracking, or any other damage. Second, give the connectors a gentle wiggle to make sure they're all snug and secure. And third, if you see anything that looks off, well, that's your starting point for the repair.
So, where are you looking? There are 2 main circuits to focus on. The first is the BCM side. That's the wiring connected to that nervous system we just talked about. The second is the circuit connected to the IPDM-E/R. That's a mouthful, but it just means the Intelligent Power Distribution Module that lives in the engine room. It's another key electronic hub.
And here's the great part. The inspection you're doing is identical for both of these circuits. Whether you're looking at the wires going to the BCM or the IPDM-E/R, your job is the same, just a good, thorough visual inspection for any damage. A broken or shorted wire in either of these places is a really common reason for that B2609 code to show up.
Okay, so you've checked for other codes, you've inspected all the wiring, everything looks good, but the problem is still there. Now it's time to look at the actual hardware components themselves.
At this stage, we've successfully narrowed down the possibilities quite a bit. If the pathways, the wires and circuits are all clear, then the issue is likely with one of the components at either end of that path. Our diagnostic work now points to one of 2 main parts.
The first, and maybe most obvious possibility, is that the electronic steering column lock itself has failed. The little switches or the mechanism inside might be worn out or just plain broken. In this case, the solution is pretty straightforward. The faulty unit has to be replaced.
The second possibility is a problem with the Intelligent Power Distribution Module itself. This module is kind of like a smart fuse box. It manages power to a bunch of systems, including the steering lock. If it's malfunctioning, it might be sending bad signals or just not powering the lock correctly. And just like with the lock, if the IPDM-E/R is the culprit, the solution is a replacement.
So we've covered all the pieces of the puzzle. Let's put it all together into one final, logical troubleshooting roadmap that you can follow from start to finish.
This roadmap lays out the whole diagnostic funnel for you. Start with those U codes. I can't stress that enough. Then move to a general visual check of the wiring. From there, you're going to zero in on the specific circuits for both the BCM and the IPDM E/R. And only after you've ruled out all the wiring issues should you even consider replacing the big components.
You see, the real takeaway here is to be methodical. It's a process of elimination. By starting with the simplest, cheapest checks and working your way up, you can avoid jumping to an expensive and maybe wrong conclusion. It'll save you a lot of time, money, and for sure, a lot of frustration.
And this leaves us with one final question. With all this knowledge, you can probably inspect the wiring and connectors yourself pretty confidently. But if your diagnosis points to replacing a whole component, especially a key module like the BCM or IPDM E/R, well, you have a choice to make. Is this a DIY job, or is it time to call on a pro? The answer really depends on your comfort level and your tool set, but now you're much better equipped to make that call.